Always happy when we get a little Trent Dilfer on a Monday. Okay. The Pats are rolling.
Mm-hmm.
I want to spend a little time on this. The obvious comp is early Brady, because for those that I try to remind, those first couple of years, there was a very, very tight leash on Brady on what they allowed him to do offensively. So I would argue, especially with the 20-year evolution of the game, they let Mac do a little bit more. Is there anything you're seeing with early Mac, early Brady, any of this kind of stuff that you see that maybe the rest of us don't have the experience to recognize?
Yeah, I think there's a ton of comparables. I think from an offensive format standpoint, 2 back, 21 personnel, a little 11, action pass, making sure protection is sound. One of the evolutions of the Patriots with Brady was going from a very, a lot of people in protection to less people in protection. Tom, about 4 or 5 years in, once he had kind of mastered NFL protection schemes and defenses, they started getting 6-out more often. 6-man protections more often, 5-man protections more often, putting the burden on him. They're not doing that with Mac yet. That's natural. Herbert's the same way in LA. A lot of his success last year was with multiple protection packages, a lot of people in there. This year, they're starting to allow him to do a little bit more, and it's not going well. It's probably a little too soon. So I see that from an offensive format standpoint. A lot of completion passes, high efficiency calls. When he does push the ball down the field, there's not a lot of defenders. Most of the time, the ball is pushed down the field versus man, not zone, not having him throw the ball deep into flooded zones. Very similar to Brady early on. I would argue that Mac is cleaner than Tom at this point of his career. I think this thing I'm most impressed with, not better. People are going to interpret that wrong. But you can maybe make the argument that at this point he's better than Tom was. Doesn't mean he's going to be better. I don't think he's
right. Which, by the way, those first year is not saying a ton.
No.
Tom
first couple years. What Mac does, and maybe it's easier to talk about pro Mac and the things that are so impressive. He plays the game as professionally as I've seen a young person play it. Not better, as professionally. Clean's another word. What is a professional? What is a great professional? Somebody that has an incredible amount of attention to detail. It's somebody that every small thing is as big as all things. It's somebody that has been trained all week, and he's taken on the burden of training to do little nuanced things that very few people see. Eye work, matching his feet to his eyes, subtle little pump fakes, working deep through progressions, or making you feel like he's working deep through a progression. So he does a really good job in the quick game is keeping his eyes one way, keeping the defense going back, and then getting immediately to the other side of the field. His action fakes, if you look at his action fakes, it looks like Tom and Peyton, 2 of the best action guys of all time. And he's doing this in his first year. So he's incredibly professional how he plays the position. I love what they've done with him. I've never been a believer, hey, give him a little, then give him a little more, then give him a little more after that. I've been more of a believer is give him as much as he's earned, right? And it could be the same thing, but he's earned a lot of rope at a short amount of time. And even in the last few weeks, you've seen even some of the stuff I mentioned already grow rapidly, and they're giving him more stuff. And that's just not more plays. That's more responsibility. I think he's one of the funnest guys to watch in the league because you admire the level of professionalism he's playing the quarterback position with.
When I've talked to my buddies, because I'm, obviously from the area, like, hey, this team's winning it. I mean, their arrogance is earned.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, all right, I still think you're going to have to win a shootout in the AFC. At some point, you're going to have to win a shootout to get to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl. And what I've always been, I think of all the things that I could say are the most impressive of Belichick, and the list is very long, is that they're the most adaptable football team I've ever seen, ever. That they can trust their guys to game plan it at more extremes than any other team that I've ever seen. But there's game planning for a shootout. I don't know if they have the personnel. I don't know if they would ask. I'm not saying Mac's incapable of it, but that'd be a lot to ask of them to go. You're going to have to figure out how to put up 40 in a back and forth game here at some point, because that's what the league kind of is.
Is it though, if you're clean offensively and if you're a ball control offense? And I don't know. I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe the defense and the ball control is enough, and the person on the groups that are running that they're going to, hey, we're limiting possessions. We don't have to score 40 in one of these. Maybe. Yeah. It just feels like that's kind of what this league has been the last couple of years, and maybe that's just the Kansas City part of it.
And I agree with you. Maybe it's easier to say, are they going to have to score at the end of the first half, or are they going to have to score on the final possession? I don't know if it's in the 40s, but I do agree with you. They're going to have to match a score at the end of the first half, and then they're going to have to either go down late in the game and have to go win it, or finish off a drive with a 2-point lead or a 3-point lead and finish the game. That's the hardest thing for quarterbacks to do. Young quarterbacks to do in the NFL, all quarterbacks. And it's hard for me in my 14th year. So it's hard. That would be where I would see the shootout mentality. Can you be in a must-pass situation at the end of the first half, at the end of the game, and execute a high level? I do think Bourne, and I said this, I think early in the year, I think Bourne is a kid that is way better than people thought. I think Bill did as he usually does, two incredible offseason acquisitions. The Henry acquisition, who was one of the best tight ends in football before the injury, and then the Bourne kid, to identify that type of talent. He's a unique player. I mean, you could put him in this top 15 of talented guys in the league. So they found something there. They have multiple backs they use. They do as good a job as anybody getting their backs involved in the passing game, the screen game. So yes, I could see your argument there that they're going to eventually have to have some must-pass situations where Mac's got to carry the load. Based on what I've seen, I think he can do it. He just does so many things that are beyond his years. It's pretty impressive. And then to go to your adaptability thing, he's the greatest coach of all time. I got to know Bill Walsh. I think he's probably the second greatest, but what Bill's done is incredible. And here's why. And one of the reasons why. He coaches better. And you're like, well, no crap, Trent. But I mean, he coaches everybody better. His coaches are coached harder. Their attention to the little things. They coach technique. And that's one of the biggest things. I'm watching the Raiders-Cowboys game today, and I'm getting back to the Patriots here. And the Cowboys are getting beat by split zone. And when I say basic split zone, I'm talking like high school split zone. I would argue that we here at Lipscomb run split zone as well as you saw the Raiders.
Can you just give us like a really quick definition of split zone?
It's a basic zone play with a player from the side you're starting the run at coming across and digging out the backside. And it could be a bunch of different ways you dig it out. And it's 6 guys are married together, right? 5 are going one way and comboing their blocks up to where the linebacker profiles are. And then the split guy is kind of reading that on the run and kicking out, cutting, climbing to the next level. And
like Kittle, right?
It's the Kittle play. Yes, right. For everybody that's thinking about it, it's the Kittle play. Everybody runs it. You don't expect to get 8-12 yards of carry. And how you fit it defensively, you can take it away. You can backfill it. You can wrong arm. You can spill. You can do a bunch of different things to it backside. That's why you don't just see it every single play, because when teams know you're running it, you can play behind it, right? The Cowboys can't make an adjustment. They can't wrong arm it on the backside. They can't backfill it, and it happens all day long. That never happens to the Patriots. Why? Not because their scheme's better, but because they know they've been trained every technique at defeating split zone. And they do stuff that high school coaches teach and that college coaches teach. They teach little tiny things as if you've never been coached before. And that's how you're going to get coached all week long. It's not just the scheme. It's not just the chalkboard stuff. It's the details within the scheme that allows an average player to play well, a good player to play great, a great player to be a Hall of Famer. They just continue to get the most from the least and the best from the best because the way Bill's built it. He's built it that every single moment of every single day is equally important, and every technique is equally important. And it's never just throw out the balls and play football. It's never just take something from the chalkboard and put it between the lines. There's more steps to it. And I've had this discussion with NFL coaches that think they do it. I've had them that think they do it, and they don't. They don't do it to the level that the Patriots do it. So this is where I always get caught up with, do they have enough talent? Maybe you don't think they have enough talent because you don't know their names because they weren't college stars and they weren't drafted high enough. And that's how all the media does their strength of roster. Their roster's better than that roster. How in the hell do you know? You don't know. I don't know. Colin doesn't know, right? It's the roster's as good as they're playing. And Bill gets his roster to play better football than other rosters that may have more flash and sizzle or higher draft picks for better college players or more renowned college players. And that's the frustrating thing when you played them, when you studied them, is you can't understand it until you get deep in the weeds of the why. And the why is very simple. Talk to Ted, talk to any Patriot about this. It's because when I'm in my 10th year and I've been coached on something 150 times and I mess up in practice, guess what? I get coached on it again. And it's as easy as, where's my right hand? Is my elbow attached to my ribs? Or where's my left foot? What direction is my toe pointing? Where are my eyes? Do I get to extension when I'm blocking? It's all this boring stuff that the fan doesn't want to know. But it's the difference between good and great. It's what takes you from good to great. And it's the same formula when you see a team win a Super. The Chiefs, oh man, they've fallen apart. What's fallen apart? Their technique, their basic boring stuff. They got caught up in the flash and sizzle. And Andy went, wait a second, let's reel this thing back because I'm a good coach. Let's get back to the basics. That's what you hear, right? Well, guess what the basics are? It's boring stuff that is monotonous, that's hard, that's brutal. The Patriots do it every second of every day. And if you don't, you're gone.